Well, good morning and good afternoon to you, wherever you may be. Welcome to Zyxel Sales and Solution Introduction in our webinar today. Let's go ahead and get started. How's everybody doing today? Hello, my name is Trywin. I am the product manager here at Zyxel. Welcoming you to a sales and solution introduction to Zyxel. By a raise of hands, how many of you guys are actually new to Zyxel, maybe a first-time partner, first-time buyer of Zyxel products? Fantastic. There's a lot of you here who haven't been part of our team, taking advantage of what Zyxel has to offer. So that's what I'm here for. I'm here to introduce you to a lot of things. We have tons of exciting things that Zyxel does. You may be just knowing maybe a piece of what Zyxel does, but that's why I'm here. I've been at Zyxel for 15 years now, and I primarily deal with the business class products like the security appliances and gateway switches, or the networking switches, and also the Nebula versions of those as well. So we're going to cover a lot of things. I'm going to be moving pretty quickly through this. It's going to be recorded as well, so if you kind of want to go back later on as a partner, you can download and watch the video of this webinar. And we will have those posted pretty much shortly after this call. But I wanted to introduce you a little bit about Zyxel. So today we're going to cover a few things. We're going to talk about who Zyxel is. We've been in business actually for 29 years. It actually, this year is actually our 30th anniversary year. We were established in 1989. Primarily headquartered in Taiwan. I'm in the US office in Anaheim, California. I usually say sunny California, but right now it's rainy outside. So it's wet, but hey, it's gonna leave in a few days. So that's all good. I don't know about where you guys are right now, but it might be really cold, I know, in the rest of the country. But we have over 700,000 businesses that use Zyxel products and our solutions. We have 1,500 employees worldwide. People don't realize that we're actually a huge company. We're not like a fly-by-night company. We've been around for almost 30 years now. 150 global markets with 100 million devices worldwide being powered by Zyxel. We have some outstanding R&D capabilities as well. About a third of our workforce is all R&D folk. So whether it's hardware, software engineers that create and design the firmware and the hardware, or also tech support around globally. And we have R&D resources both in our headquarters in Taiwan, in Germany, and also up in the Bay Area in California. So again, I'm going to be moving pretty quick. Again, if you have any open questions, use the Q&A box. We'll try to get those to at the end. If I can answer them kind of in line, then we'll do that as well too. But I'm going to move really quick because there's a lot that I want to cover. There's a lot of exciting stuff that we wanted to tell you about during this introduction here. So we're here to, basically what I tell people is that everything that's connected to a network, hold on, let me pause the music here. Anything that's connected to the network is what Zyxel has. We have everything from the telco side, the business connectivity side, which is what I'm mostly involved with, and also on the home connected side. Well, you as a partner, primarily you'll be doing the business connectivity side, so all your switches, gateways, wireless, those kinds of things. We have a whole comprehensive portfolio. Anything, like I said, connects to a network, whether it's security, backbone wireless or wired connectivity with fiber, managed, unmanaged, fully managed switches, wireless access points, gateways, you name it, we have something that is involved in that. So I wanted to first cover the security portion. This is probably one of the biggest areas of our business and a lot of where we have a lot of opportunity in. We're really successful in that. Providing both, all types of security. We've been certified with ICSA labs continuously, basically for the last 15 years, basically saying that, hey, our firewalls work the way that it's supposed to work. Our VPN tunnels and interoperability with other products in the market that are ICSA certified, they are also the same. They also will co-work with each other. So we play nicely using and following standards. Our portfolio is quite wide as well. We have VPN hardware solutions with next generation high-speed VPN tunneling. Our NSG is our cloud managed solution through the Nebula platform. Our USG series is kind of like the all-in-one UTM solution. And then, of course, we just launched our ATP series, which is our Advanced Threat Protection. I'm going to cover a little bit more about that in detail because that's the exciting part that I think partners like yourself can really take advantage of what's going on in the market today. So the next generation firewall basically is our all-in-one UTM box. This is kind of our bread and butter at the moment. It provides you with the content filtering, robust VPN capabilities for site-to-site connectivity, load balancing, WAN failover. So if you have multiple internet connections, one to fail over and fail back from, that's available in this platform. Application intelligence, being able to recognize different kinds of applications like Skype or Facebook or different types of traffic so that you can prioritize and control. It's integrated with a wireless LAN controller, meaning that you can provision, configure access points, Zyxel business class access points within the gateway itself. It also has models that will allow for you to do hardware high availability. So you can do those load balancing in case of a failover. Again, bringing kind of enterprise features down to like the SMB. Our main kind of focus is anywhere between 5 device kind of customers all the way up to like 500 user type applications. Link aggregation, being able to kind of utilize multiple ports to be able to give you a bigger bandwidth. Manage up to, this one says 66, but we've actually increased that even further to hundreds of access points that you can manage. If you have some applications that require much more security encryption, like SSL inspection, that is available. High Availability Pro, being able to do that high availability, but map the sessions directly. And even if a hardware goes down, all of the sessions, all of the DHCP, all of VPN tunnels information is all within the second box. So when you fail over, there's very minimal downtime. And also integrated with hotspot management. Now, these are just a few of the features that this USG series and a lot of our firewall series has. So these are just some highlights, and you'll find that when you utilize this platform, you have many opportunities to fulfill any kind of projects that are out there. So we have several series. We have a low-end series like the 40s and the 60s, and then moving up to the 110. When you get to the 210, 310, it starts to become a little bit more customizable interfaces. Gives you about a lot more performance on the firewall throughput and the UTM throughput. So it's just really a scale of how the, which product fits. So it depends on the bandwidth, the number of users, how many VPN tunnels that the customer may need. So it goes all the way up to the 1900 series, which then provides, gigabit interfaces with high throughput UTM. And of course, Zyxel wins in terms of best total cost of ownership, especially for the performance that's there. If you compare ourselves to like SonicWall, Fortinet, one of the big things that happens is that Zyxel doesn't offer or doesn't charge for support contracts. So for the life of the product, there's a lifetime hardware warranty. There's a lifetime firmware upgrade function as well. So you're not having to pay that yearly contract just to get support from like the other vendors on top of your UTM services. So all you have to pay for is basically the UTM service licenses per year. And in most cases, we're up to 49% more cost effective over a 3-year span. So again, free support, no hardware contract. That just gives you more savings that you don't typically see. We also use independent expertise as our partners. For antivirus, we use Bitdefender. For anti-spam and content filtering, we use Siren. For IDP and applicant intelligence, we use Trend Micro. And these basically are, our goal is that, hey, we don't want to do these things ourselves. We'll leave it to the guys who are the leaders in the industry. Let them focus on doing all of that functionality. And then we leverage that, either through the cloud or through signatures that are downloaded and housed inside the device itself. And then, of course, there's checking of the cloud and things like that. Well, a lot of the competitors are doing this in-house, so you never know what kind of resources may be available. So what we're focusing on using them as specifically. One of the main applications of any of our security firewalls is for VPN, and we have a hybrid VPN design, both support for SSL VPN, IPsec VPN, or even L2TP over IPsec. So it allows us to cover everything, whether it's a client, remote, a mobile device, office to office kind of connections, or office to headquarters, or even a mesh kind of a VPN. We have all that available. So that's available in pretty much all of our products, but if you're looking for a dedicated device that does that VPN functionality, then the VPN series is what you're looking for. VPN 2S is on the low end, more kind of a consumer home office type scenario, moving up to the VPN 50, and of course the higher end models, VPN 100, 300, and the 2200. And there's some unique things that actually work with the VPN series. So I will cover that in just a moment. But if you're looking for VPN, this is the product that you want to look at. In the news, of course, there's a whole huge area of security issues, right? One is called crypto jacking. How many of you guys have heard of crypto jacking before? Basically, what it is it takes over the computer, makes it into basically a bit mining computer. So the hacker or the person who's trying to infect, kind of like ransomware, they will infect the malware across as many servers, as many instances as they possibly can. And all it does is basically slows down the computer. It's using up the CPU cycles to mine Bitcoins and other kind of cryptocurrencies out there, right? So it almost makes the device unusable. And in fact, it actually takes over the computer so bad. In some cases, the servers are just eating up, clock cycles, even in the cloud or some virtualized machine. So it's a terrible thing. And of course, the organizations that get hit with it, they're the ones that have to suffer because they're paying for the increased CPU utilization bills that are coming from these kinds of instances. And of course, ransomware, right? Ransomware is everywhere. In fact, you can even go online and subscribe to a ransomware as a service offering where you can go and create your own ransomware. I mean, it's ridiculous on how these variants and stuff like that can come out based on, any of the current ransomware that have already hit a lot of the market already, like the WannaCry or Petya. Those increasing, they're always increasing, and there's always threats, right? So we can move, those threats can either target like a single place or even go massive and go worldwide. Of course, unknown threats have also increased as well. So unknown threats are things that, we call them zero-day attacks, and those have increased by 40% this past few years, meaning that people aren't, getting the widespread viruses that are coming out or the malware. It's a lot of these targeted attacks of new software that's coming out. That's how quickly they're coming out. So they're unknown. So typically on a normal UTM, right, you could look through at the traffic that's passing through. You can see that there's good, might be good, and then or there's just suspicious and known bad. UTM can only look at a few things, whereas unknown threats are in that middle. It could be good, or it's unknown completely, or it kind of looks suspicious. So how do we manage that, right? How do we tell, or what do we do about that kind of traffic? It's neither good nor bad. So it's somewhere in between, and that's where the danger lies right now. So how do we conquer those kind of security threats? So zero-day threats are more sophisticated. They're unknown. They can exist in certain files. There are a lot of things that we need to kind of take a look at. So the new product that we actually have launched is called the ATP, and that blocks a lot of the suspicious traffic, and it still allows for you to do very high throughput UTM to maintain that user experience that people want, right? They don't want to have their throughput throttled down just because they're doing a lot of this kind of inspection. And we're doing and being able to isolate a lot of these unknown threats to a sandbox. It's in a cloud sandboxing. So we're using that, the cloud. We use cloud intelligence to basically open those files, analyze them in real time, and then decide whether or not it is a malicious file or not. And then make basically a definition based on that file, whether future instances of that file is a threat or not. So it's actually able to be learning over time. So as over time more and more files are coming along, the database or the brains of the system is actually getting better. So it does employ a lot of machine learning, some AI, so it gets stronger, so it can evolve over the next attack. And there's also a global ecosystem that comes into play with the ATP. There's real-time intelligence, right? And then it also shares that information across the cloud network to other devices that are using the Zyxel ATP. So that ensures that all the devices globally, they're constantly getting updates. They're proactively looking at the security issues of all customers in all the networks, and then being able to share that. And we're actually leveraging some of the industry leaders right here. Last Line is the market leader in kind of security effectiveness against breach detection rates, and they are reliable for sandboxing solutions, especially for the enterprise. And here's kind of a lab detection comparative report here where Last Line fulfills here. So they're in the TCO and protection, the very high protection at a very cost-effective sandboxing solution for enterprise. So that's what Zyxel uses and leverages in our ATP device. Our ATP portfolio consists of right now 3 models, the ATP 200, the 500, and the 800. It has, a scale, you can see where the UTM performance is 450 megabits on the low end, and we're talking about, sub 500 type pricing for the ATP 200 to get that kind of throughput. Of course, that's the theoretical max. So typically I say, well, if you turn on all the services, the UTM throughput will be about, 250, I would say, is a safe bet for the ATP 200. It actually probably is going to be even more because we're really conservative on the numbers on those throughputs. So you're depending on the traffic, you may actually get better performance than that. For the ATP 500, you can see that's a 700 megabits per second for the ATP 500. And on the ATP 800, it's 1200 megabits per second. So really able to satisfy a lot larger opportunity for people who are upgrading their connections, right? That's the big thing is right now people are upgrading to 300 meg or even higher speeds, and they're realizing that the firewalls that they currently have are just not cutting it, especially when they want to turn on all the UTM services. It's kind of like, why would you, and of course, a lot of the vendors out there are saying, well, in order to get the faster speeds, you got to turn off some security, right? How many of you guys have heard that, right? Turn off some of your security functions. It's kind of like, hey, I just got a whole security system for my house, but I'm going to disable it so that it doesn't do anything. So it's kind of like you have it all there, but just because you needed easier access through your doors, that you don't want to engage the locks, right? It's kind of ridiculous in that regard. So this allows, the ATP allows for you to have these opportunities to go and upgrade these customers who have just purchased these higher speeds, because they can go out and they can do their tests, go to speedtest.net, and they do their test and they go, well, I'm paying for 300, and why am I only getting like 150? So that, and then a lot of the cases, in order to get a box that will do 300, you're gonna have to pay like thousands of dollars, or over $1,000 just to get a box that can do the UTM speeds to meet that, right? So there's a big disconnect. But this is where the ATP brings that system down to the kind of the normal levels of what a small business kind of expects to pay for a router that can do speeds like that. So I think we have some great opportunity. We're one of the first ones in the market to have this kind of price point for it. So definitely you could probably kill it with a lot of ATPs being sold into the market, right? And of course, it's not only the UTM functionality, but you have that sandboxing that comes into play. So really an all-in-one kind of solution that we think that we can really standardize on for the future. And the ATP is going to be the future, right? With sandboxing, has the application control, malware, the cloud query, the malware blocker, cloud threats, intrusion prevention, geo enforcers, AP controllers, and SecuReporter. It's all wrapped up into one package now. So when you buy the box, what you see it now in the street price, when you buy it in the market today, it's going to come fully loaded with 1 year of the gold security pack. And basically after the 1 year, you can then subscribe to additional years. And we do have multiple term years for you to get some cost advantages as well. But it's basically all in one. Why would you buy an ATP box and again and not use the features, right? That's the main function. If you're not looking for UTM, if you're not looking for the UTM, those kinds of sandboxing functions, then you could just go to the USG series, or you even go to the VPN series, right? Depending on what your application is. But this is the best kind of all-in-one solution that we have to offer that really maximizes the connectivity and of great value. So hopefully you guys see some value in that, especially if you're a managed service provider. It's going to be an easy sale because customers are going to call and say, I have 300 megs. I need UTM. What box do you have? And here's an affordable one that will fit that. So the differences between the ATP and the USG, of course, that's going to be the question, right? Basically, the USG has like all of the UTM functions, like I mentioned. It does not have the cloud machine learning, right? So that's what ATP has. And the ATP has a lot more things coming in, or a lot more things as well, like botnet filters, of course, the sandboxing function, also the zero-day IP reputation capabilities and functionality. So those are some of the main features. Of course, the throughput is going to be the biggest one. You can see that a 1900 series, which is basically the highest end USG that we have, will push 700 megabits of UTM, whereas the midline level ATP 500 is doing over 800 megabits per second. So it's already going to be massively bigger. It's more price point compared to like a USG 210. So the ATP will actually do more than, from an IDP throughput, it's going to be like 2.5 times even better than that series. IPsec VPN, of course, is on both. SSL VPN is available. The USG, the one other difference is that USG does have more of the hotspot functionality. ATP will maybe eventually get some of that functionality later soon. But the hotspot management, Facebook Wi-Fi concurrent device upgrade kind of functionality for hospitality is built into the USG series. But the ATP is all about UTM kind of functionality. Now we also launched what we call SecuReporter. And SecuReporter is kind of a logging functionality. It helps you to centralize all the data and also gives you analysis on what's going on the network, whether it's like people accessing it. It gives you kind of a holistic approach, right? It gives you charts that you can do. You can find information over time. So it collects all that log data, the application data, any kind of security application information, goes into SecuReporter. It then also analyzes it over like time to see kind of anomalies. It does some data kind of calculation correlation and visualizes all that information into a dashboard, into reports, or sends out alerts, right? So if you have kind of a data breach or some sort of security issue, it can send out alerts to the system, to the administrator. And of course, you can customize reports. This is an awesome tool, especially if you are a managed service provider, or even somebody who's managing someone else's network, right? Or even your boss. If you're looking at using a Zyxel device, security device for your, as an IT professional in your office, you can literally create these customized reports that come out every month and then just emails to whoever needs it to be. You can customize like which widgets can go into where and what information is available. And it will tell you the threats, that tells you who's using the most bandwidth, what websites they're going to, all the information that makes the product, tells your boss or tells your customer that the product is working, right? They're paying a monthly fee. They might as well know that, hey, the product is working and doing something. So that really shows value on it. And it seems like the effort on your part would be very minimal, right? You just set up the report that one time, just have it sent out every month, and it makes it look like you've done all this work to get all that reporting done for them. And so it really adds value to the service that you're providing to your customer. If you want to get started or kind of check out what's going on, you can go to the SecuReporter.cloudcnm.zyxel.com, and you'll be able to log in and take a look at either I think there's a demo site there, as well as seeing how you can get your devices onto a SecuReporter. And those support also all of our USG series with a certain firmware level. So you just have to upgrade to the latest firmware and you'll have access to that. Now there's also a licensing that will go along with the SecuReporter. So check with your sales team on what the node cost is per device. There are bundle packages and things like that so that you can use SecuReporter. And of course, if you standardize on the ATP, SecuReporter will be part of that bundle. It's included in that gold package. So you'll already have it right off the bat. Now, one product that we just launched as well is called our SD-WAN Nebula Orchestrator. Orchestrator is just kind of the name that controls, the whole SD-WAN functionality. And it's available in our VPN series if you didn't see that webinar before. You can always check previous webinars on our website, and you can check that out. But SD-WAN is basically our software-defined network WAN here. And there's several things that define the SD-WAN. So what is SD-WAN? It's basically a software-defined wide area network. It's what enterprises are using and looking for to manage their infrastructure over the internet. It makes it actually very reliable, that they can actually displace MPLS connections that they have between locations, or even different types of IP services. So you can use multiple WANs to do the load balancing, to do optimizations and things like that, to maximize kind of the connectivity and also reduce kind of overhead of your traditional VPN implementations. So here we believe that we're taking that kind of more of an enterprise approach. Like I mentioned earlier, we take kind of enterprise functions and kind of bring it to the SMB and try to make it more simple to use for the market. So it allows for you to take a more improved approach towards how do you build VPN tunnels and how do you optimize them. So Nebula Orchestrator in the SD-WAN has these kind of features. It has zero-touch provisioning, meaning that you can enable and deploy different branch offices with this kind of solution and be able to get them online very quickly. It's very much intuitive through the cloud interface. The feature function like dynamic path selection. So it can do real-time monitoring of kind of the path connectivity between multiple WAN connections and choose the best path, during that segment of time. So really you can transmit across different WANs. You can even truncate them as well to get an increased bandwidth. We have features like WAN optimization. This helps to improve the performance between the branch offices. And I'll show you an example of how WAN optimization can improve that. It has also content filtering, so you can do database URL filtering as well as HTTPS domain name blocking as well. So it can block things like Facebook, people going to YouTube, or that kind of such. Application intelligence is much like our USG and our ATP functionality, where it can define over 3,000 different kind of behaviors, applications, protocols, so that you can either block, allow, deny, however you may choose. So once you know what it is, you can decide what to do with it. And of course, dynamic mesh VPN. That's a really cool feature that allows for you to dynamically create VPN tunnels between locations on a demand case by case, unless you need it on all the time. So it actually will save you a lot of effort on that just by clicking the different options there. So here's one example of how we've actually implemented the SD-WAN functionality. So without SD-WAN, we actually transferred a file that was almost a 2 gig file across from Germany to Taiwan to do this test. Without SD-WAN WAN optimization, the transfer time was about 2 hours and 40 minutes. So it took quite a long time because the throughput was only about 300 kilobits per second. Because again, latency, jitter, lag, those kinds of things introduced a issue, of course, because it's doing some TCP things. Now, with SD-WAN and WAN optimization enabled, the transfer time of that same file only took 10 minutes. So we improved from 2 hours and 40 minutes, so almost 3 hours down to just 10 minutes time, and it was getting a throughput of 24 megabits per second. Of course, there was the connection had actually a kind of a latency of 290 milliseconds. The packet loss was actually 0.3%. The jitter was 3 milliseconds. So really that's what was really causing that problem. But with WAN optimization, it was able to go from 300 kilobits per second to all the way to 24 megabits per second. And again, of course, through the portal, through the orchestrator, you have control over that, all of the security functions, like I mentioned before, the firewall rules, the geo enforcer, which allows for you to block by country, content filtering, application control. So all housed in that. So how do you get orchestrator, or how do you get SD-WAN? So all you got to do is buy one of our VPN series devices. The 50, the 100, and the 300 supports the Nebula orchestrator. So all you do is when you fire up the box, it will actually ask you when you register to take 2 paths. So you can choose it as a normal VPN 50 device, or you can then choose the orchestrator. And right now, when you buy the VPN 50, it comes with 1 year of the orchestrator and the security services. So if you choose that path, it will automatically give you those services in there, and you'll have access and provision them in the Nebula Orchestra itself. Now, of course, you may be already familiar with Nebula itself. So when you log into Nebula, which is our cloud controller, it'll actually also ask you to take 2 paths, whether you want to log into the orchestrator to manage your SD-WAN stuff, or you can log into your Nebula cloud control center, which then controls all of the other Nebula devices that are in your account. But it's still a single pane of glass. We also offer Nebula free. So you can always enable the product, or maybe after a year you don't want the full SD-WAN functionality. I don't know why you would, but you can downgrade basically to a free version. It's a little bit less functionality. It doesn't have the dynamic path selection, doesn't have the WAN optimization, content filtering, or the geo enforcer. So it pretty much becomes like a VPN device, but it could still be used as a VPN device and using Orchestrator to manage the mesh and VPN connectivities between all the different locations, right? So that's the kind of the main difference between the free version and also the full Orchestra version. So that covers kind of a high level of the security products that we have here at Zyxel. I'm gonna move over to the switching side of the network now. Of course, the switch is the backbone of any network. People usually overlook the switch. They just go buy something off the shelf that is, cost effective per se, just thinking, well, I don't really care about the switch side as long as it works, right? But there's a lot of things that come into play, especially for a managed service provider. The security level, being able to power up the devices, VLANs, those kinds of things, optimizations of the QoS. But I wanted to cover, since you guys might be a little bit new to Zyxel, cover some of the switching basics that are here, especially in our naming convention. So some of the naming conventions, ES basically is a fast Ethernet port, so it's an Ethernet switch. GS in the model name means a gigabit switch. An XS means that all the ports are 10 gig. So X is the Roman numeral for 10, so that's where that comes from. So it's a 10 gig switch. Now an XGS means that they're all gigabit ports, except there are some dedicated 10 gig uplinks. So that's why there's a 10 gig with gigabit, gigabit switch ports. And then MGS is the other name. It's basically a metro switch. There tend to be the carrier grade type switches. Either they have different types of DC power options and or different kind of fiber options that are available. So those are what you need to know for the beginning of the name. Now, the ending of the name, either a P or an HP, basically stands for PoE or high power PoE. So HP is the PoE plus, which is the 30 watt standard. Of course, 30 watt standard is also backwards compatible to the 15.4. Now, if there's an F there at the end, then it's also a fiber switch. So it has typically fiber ports in themselves. Now, combo ports is another thing that you need to know just from maybe dealing with switches now. Combo ports can basically function as an Ethernet port, so a copper port, or as a fiber port, but they can't be both at the same time. So they're usually numbered the same. So you have to pick and choose which one to use, one or the other. And of course, the fiber ports themselves, SFP or SFP plus, SFP, when it says SFP ports, those are gigabit fiber ports. And if it says SFP plus, those are that work up to the 10 gig fiber ports, right? And those, of course, you have fiber modules that will go into those to connect the fiber to go long distances. And of course, switch stacking, Zyxel, some of the models will have switch stack, allows for you to stack them physically on top of each other and also identify them via stacking number. So the stacking number allows for you to then make it function as if it was a single switch. Now, of course, we have other virtual stacking as well that allows for you to manage up to 24 switches in a single kind of a pane of glass. And of course, PoE, power over Ethernet. You guys are probably very much in tune with that because everything now in the networking space is kind of powered by PoE, whether it's IP cameras, access points, or now even more like devices and things like that. So there's a couple classes there, PoE, which is 15.4 watt, the class 3, a PoE plus, which is the 30 watt class. And of course, there's a new class coming out, which is the PoE plus plus, which is the 60 watt. So we'll also see some of that coming out in this coming year. So PoE is very important. It's all about powering devices. And so Zyxel actually has a full portfolio of unmanaged, web managed, fully managed with different port counts to be able to control and give you access to switches and to these networks. And so what we do is actually a smart way. Zyxel does some smart power, some intelligent PoE, that's what I call it. It monitors the device and it actually will give the power that the device actually needs rather than what it says its budget is. So in effect, it actually will give you better utilization of your power budget. So I'll have an example of that as well. You can also control the PoE power on it, right? And also you can set up scheduling on it. So you can do some cost savings or even protect yourself from a security standpoint by maybe after hours, all the access points powered down just so that nobody's sitting outside, your building is trying to hack through the wireless into your network. You can do that as well. Or you can do some cool things for the scheduling. We've seen it where customers will use that to just do a quick refresh, reboot of all the access points that are in an area, right? Or do half the access points, every other access point goes down, reboots back up, and then 15 minutes later the other half goes down and comes back up in the middle of the night, something like that, just to do a kind of a clean refresh of a reboot. So here's an example of how we use smart power. For example, our WAC 6502 utilizes typically a 30-watt power, right? It's classified as a 30-watt standard. And so if you were using maybe a competitor product, it would say, okay, reserve for me 30 watts. And so if I wanted to power 20 access points, that would require me 600 watts of power in the budget. And that typically is going to be, very difficult or maybe even more costly. The device itself actually will consume 16 watts. So you can see that 14 watts is already wasted if you're going with a non-intelligent PoE. But with Zyxel's consumption mode and our intelligent PoE, those 16 watts will be basically given to the device, and the rest can be used elsewhere. So we can actually power the same 20 access points with just 320 watts. So the power budget of 375 watts that this particular switch has will be able to cover that. So that's how we do that, basically maximizing the power and be able to power up more devices. And again, we have a full array of web smart managed switches down on the low end for the small office to the web managed with 10 gig. And also the more advanced kind of features in our smart managed models and our Nebula Flex models. So the 1920 V2 series can actually go and initiate into the Nebula Flex. So it can become it can become Nebula. Or you can use it as part of the free Nebula switch offering. So you get to choose both paths as well. Or you can choose the NSW series, which is our full cloud managed series that comes with our Pro Pack. It has 1 year built into it that is going to have full featured Nebula functionality. And of course, we have our full managed switches as well. Layer 2 managed with Layer 2 Plus with routing, all of that enabled, with CLI, with high power PoE, with different fiber options, as well as 10 gig options. So really a full array of networking products that can fulfill kind of any network that you are doing, whether it's for small business or for big schools, applications like that. Zyxel has something that will fulfill that. And of course, on the higher end, we have 10 gig switches that are fully managed with layer 2, layer 3 functionalities, with fiber, with DC power. So again, a full portfolio array of products that you can use. And of course, we pride ourselves in how we've designed the product. We use enterprise grade hardware. Again, with all of our hardware engineers, we take into account, how the product is built. We use very, good hardware on that. We have a stronger EDS protection and surge protections on the port. We have some, fans that are long lasting, some of the best fans that are out there for the cooling functionality. And also we have throttling as well to kind of intelligent fan control to manage how the fan is used. We use solid state capacitors instead of kind of the water-based systems, because that's usually the #1 reason for failures. You have some capacitors that blow. So we use the solid state that will ensure for very long quality of life. And of course, the power supplies, we spend a lot of effort in picking some of the best power supplies that you can get. And of course, that again helps to maintain the product quality. And that's why we can offer then a lifetime warranty on our switching products. So I wanted now to move, and pardon the pun, switch gears to the wireless side. Now, wireless is very important, right? There's a big deal because everything is now connected via wireless. You can have all sorts of devices, IoT devices, smart devices, TVs, whatever it is, all connected to wireless nowadays. So the wireless infrastructure is very important as well. So let's take a look at what Zyxel has to offer. Zyxel offers, again, a full portfolio array of cloud, standalone, or even full controller versions of the device that can be flexible in where it uses where it goes into play for Nebula Cloud. So all the models that you have here that have the little symbol, those are all right now cloud enabled. We have some more models that are coming in as well. So 2x2, 3x3, everything is kind of all in the offering. And of course, we take kind of the same pride in our design for the wireless. So if you ever get a chance to open up, a Zyxel device and open up a competitor device, you can see the difference between how we've designed it. We've fine-tuned it. We've worked on the RF. We've worked on how we shield the device to make sure that the product is kind of optimal, for an optimal experience. It's designed to be in a network that is with many other access points. I'm sure if you guys have opened up a network, right, even at home, you'll find there's like 15 or 20 access points probably in the area. It's probably even worse in a business area or even in our office. I think we have like 60 or 80 access points like in our office right now, just because of all the tests the engineers are doing, things like that. So there's a lot of interference. I feel like I probably should put on a tinfoil hat, right, just to protect myself with all the wireless access points. But hey, we take pride in shielding it, right? You can see here that the antenna array is sitting on top of a metal shielding. The processors and stuff are also shielded, so it keeps it from interfering with each other. And also the back plate, again, protecting it from reflecting out the back so that it would interfere with other devices that might be around it as well, right? So we take pride in that. And again, the same lifetime warranty is available on our wireless devices. So what is Nebula Flex? I've been talking a little bit about the switch side and also now the wireless. It's basically our function that allows for you to standardize on a particular piece of hardware, whether it's switches or access points at the moment. You can choose whether that particular hardware can be used in your traditional standalone kind of environment where you just install it, configure it, and be done. Or you can actually move it into the cloud. And in the cloud, you actually have a free version, which allows for you to get some of the auto provisioning, some of the benefits of cloud with the access points and the gateways, but then also switch it to a full version of Nebula in the future. So really you have a migration path if you need to be, or you have customers who say, you know what, I want to go straight to cloud. Then you can choose that same hardware that you're familiar with and go to cloud. Now, if you're a managed service provider and you're offering as a service, typically you'll just go with the full Nebula Cloud. So it gives you that full visibility, gives you the full provisioning, cloning of sites, those kinds of things right off the bat. So it depends on the path that you're choosing and your current business model, but we're flexible on how and what options you have available there. So on the Nebula Flex side, these are the models that currently support Nebula Flex. Again, a full array of wireless access points that will do that. Of course, now I wanted to talk why Zyxel in terms of wireless. So Zyxel offers what we call a smart antenna technology. It's actually an award-winning technology and it's a patented technology as well. So what is the issues with wireless typically, right? You want faster speeds, you want to be able to utilize these, bigger channels, right, to get faster speeds. But in doing so, you're going to get lots of interference because you're eating up the entire bandwidth. So anybody else who's in any of those channels is going to cause interference with themselves, with you, and you're going to cause interference with them, right? So we're faced with what we call co-channel interference. So what does smart antenna do? So smart antenna actually works to increase the capacity of the device. It increases the coverage, it reduces interference, and it does it in a very kind of power efficient way. So what is, how does it really work? So if you look at it kind of a traditional omnidirectional antenna, you usually have kind of a circle coverage, right? It's kind of like a globe kind of coverage of wireless. And then of course you have directional antennas that will do a very focused kind of beam, right? But what smart antenna does is it actually is an adaptive technology. So as the client is there, and if there's interference behind, it actually will create it'll do a scan of about 700 optimized patterns, and it looks at the cycle here, and then it will kind of find the one that is most optimized for that client at that particular time. My kind of analogy for kind of this technology is, hey, I'm standing in the field and I'm talking to you. If I cup my hands towards you, then you should be able to hear my voice better, right? If I go, hello, and then if at the same time, if I had 4 hands, if I was able to cup my ears at the same time, then I would be able to listen better in that direction as well. While the interference or the noise behind me, it gets pretty much lost, right? Or it's now focused towards the forward. So that's kind of the analogy of what smart antenna does. Now it does that while you are moving as well. So if the client happens to be moving, the optimization will actually continue to shift as you're moving through the different coverage areas. So again, reducing, minimizing any kind of other interference from access points, other devices, things like that, while staying focused into the device. So that means that you get better coverage and better optimal throughput. And of course, we have a research paper that was done, actually an independent research firm in the University of Bruxelles. They actually wanted to see what the effects of smart antenna technology in general had on kind of the wireless network. So if you did, University of Bruxelles wireless tests of Zyxel, you'll be able to find that white paper or that link that you just saw earlier. But they basically tested Zyxel, Aruba, Ruckus, and Cisco. It's kind of humbling that they actually put us with those kind of top big guys there. to do this kind of test. But it was because that there were only two players that really had the smart antenna technology. So Zyxel and Ruckus. So they did a bunch of different tests where they would have multiple devices that would move within the coverage area and even move across to different coverage areas and see kind of the effects of that co-channel interference. And Zyxel actually outperformed the competitors in eliminating those co-channel interference. So our throughput, our total throughput was a lot higher than a lot of them, especially in some cases, even 70% better than the competition. So some of the products that have that smart antenna technology, you'll see here, typically there are WAC series. So the 6500 or the 5300, those have that functionality in there. So these are very high capacity. They typically can support 128 associations all the way up to 256. Now, of course, there's always the bandwidth issue, right? You can't have 256 sharing, like a gig worth of connectivity. So you can split it up. Typically, we say, for a good case scenario, around 50 to 60 devices per access point is what we would probably build out for. So on top of that, not only can you do the cloud, but if you're just looking for on-prem kind of centralized controller functionality, we have controllers that can manage anywhere from 64 access points or even 8 access points on the low end, all the way up to 1,024 access points with the NXE 5500. Now, of course, if you don't want to have the standalone device, you can still use the USG series type device to become that controller for you. So these are all the models that will support the different controller features. Now, I wanted to touch up on also Nebula. I'd already talked about Nebula Flex, and I kind of mentioned what Nebula was. But here's what Nebula is. It's basically a Nebula cloud control centerpiece, and then also different products, the access point, the switches, and the gateways that all work together in a single pane of glass to be provisioned, to be configured, to be managed for multiple levels of customers as well. So kind of if you're an MSP looking for a single way to manage multiple customers, this is the solution for you. Not only does it give you the hardware, but then it gives you the backend software to do everything you need to do. You can set up without even unboxing the device. It comes with a QR code on the box as well as the product itself. I don't know if you can see this, but basically on the device, you'll see at the top, there is a QR code, and all you got to do is scan it onto the app, choose which customer or which site it belongs to, and immediately once it goes online, it will dial home. It will get the latest firmware. It will get its configuration profile sent to it automatically. So that's kind of the beauty of it. Just imagine this is the kind of the use case that some of our customers are doing and some of the ideas that we've come up with. For example, let's say you wanted to go after doctor's offices. And they're typically very similar. They have like an access point, you have a firewall gateway, and you have a switch, right? You can actually deploy or create a custom profile inside your Nebula that is kind of like a default cookie cutter, and you've configured the typical security options, the port forwarding type options, just kind of ready to go, kind of a base kind of template. You can then use Nebula to clone this to a new site. When you get a new customer, you scan in the 30 devices, you add it to that customer's site, and you just ship that box out for them to either do as a self-install kit, or you have kind of a non-technical, maybe a cable guy, or just like or independent contractor that you just use for installations. And all they need to do is connect this end into the internet, connect this one into the switch, and connect the access point to the switch, and then let it go. And basically it will dial home. Your IT has already configured the device. It's already the profile, downloads all that up within minutes, and now that site is ready to go. You can now monitor it, you can now control it through the Nebula Cloud. So really a very powerful a way of deploying and really reducing your need to have like a network engineer to go out on site just to do the configuration of this kind of network, right? You can do that all remotely. Once it gets internet access, you can do that. So it's up in minutes with just a few clicks. And of course you have access to it anytime, anywhere you want. So whether it's in your NOC, where you have people sitting there to monitor it 24/7, or you could be sitting, in the Caribbean having a coconut a drink there and check it on your iPad to manage if somebody has any problems, right? So you have access anywhere you have internet. So that Nebula Cloud has, gives you that full access from anywhere you go, and you can control everything that is related to it. All the alert systems, all that kind of thing is in the power of your hands, and that's where the power is zero touch provisioning. multi-site tenant, multi-tenant management. So you can have different organizations, which kind of represent maybe your different customers. And then each customer can go into different sites. So you can go, hey, this is hotel chain number 1, and they have 5 locations, and you can manage each of those sites independently or as a whole organization. And it's all unified in a central view. You can click through. You can follow the demo. If you go to nebula.zyxel.com and you can choose to log in the demo site, there's a demo account information there. Log into that and kind of check out the interface, check out kind of the things you can do, the configuration. I encourage you to do that. Now, of course, if you're a partner and you haven't already gotten a demo kit from your sales rep, make sure you request one of those if you're very interested in Nebula and testing that out. Definitely throw that in there, test it out, see if that fits for you. But we think that the product's been around for about 2 years now, that it has a lot of the functionalities in things that you're looking for, especially for the small business. Multi-site management, like I mentioned before, you can see the view, you can put in a Google map type scenario and do all kind of that and see all the health statuses of those different sites. The dashboard then gives you also a unified central visibility of what's going on the network. It will tell you real-time application traffic summaries, like who's using what kind of traffic, how many people are on the network, what access points are up and down, all that information, how much power you're using even on the PoE. And it's really easy, like I mentioned. You can do, even though these steps are 1, 2, 3, you can do them in any order. As long as you plug in the device, you've logged or you've registered the device with your app or through the cloud, and you've configured and monitored any of those, you can do kind of in any order you want, as long as it can get to the cloud and it knows that it's part of the your account, then it will automatically be configurable. And the cool thing about it too is you don't have to punch any kind of firewall rules unless you're in a network that is like super strict where they just have blocked everything. As long as from inside out, typically, as long as it can get out to the internet, it will have access because it's going to open up a port basically, even if it's a random port, and and it's allowed for then it can utilize kind of that remote connection, that encrypted connection to the NCC cloud. Now, like I mentioned, Nebula has those options. You can get the Nebula free license, which has a lot of the provisioning functions that you see right there, but the logging is only a 7-day log. It's a rolling log. Whereas when you move up to the professional pack, that's a whole year's worth of log, and there's no limit on the kind of user authorities or admin accounts, things like that. Of course, if you are an MSP and you want to maximize kind of costs, we actually offer where nobody else actually offers this, but we offer a lifetime professional pack. So it's a one-time for that organization inside inside your account to become full Nebula. For basically the life of the product. And even if you had to do some product replacement, the one-to-one replacement device would be part of that lifetime license. So it's transferred from the old device to the new device. So definitely if you're a managed service provider, you can use that. And then in the future, let's say that customer is no longer your customer, you can switch that out and it becomes a new customer still on a lifetime option. So that is probably the most cost-effective way if you're looking at building a managed service network. So take a look at that. Of course, there's some other things that the full Nebula has that the free does not. Things like audits, different types of alerts, access to configuration, backup, restore. We also have a new feature that's coming out. That's the IPTV DHCP functionality for multicast. So those are in the professional as well. So definitely you could try out the free, or if the customer is just looking for an easy way to provision things, then the free may be good enough. But definitely where the real kind of power in the offering, especially as a managed service provider, would be sitting in the Pro Pack. So we just wanted to talk and just a little bit about the partner program. In fact, actually, there's not much to talk about in terms of it. All you have to do is go to our partner site, vars.zyxel.com. It will give you all the information you need. We encourage you to become a partner if you're not already, because there are discounts that are available through distribution. You have access to our techs to do, what do you call it? Why can't I think of it? They are engineers that basically will help you to build out any kind of solution that you're looking for. So we have our solutions engineers that will come and on board, talk to the customer with you to kind of find out what's the needs, be able to help you choose good, better, best. What are your options for your switches, your wireless, your gateways, and give kind of a whole a solution, application solution to you to propose to the customer. And of course, like I mentioned, there's discounts at distribution that you could take advantage of it. One thing that we know as a partner, it's very difficult to make money on hardware because of Amazon, because of all those kinds of things. But through the partner program, you actually are going to make margin on selling the hardware on top of all the services that you're going to be selling to the customer as a managed service provider. So definitely take a look at that. Don't lose margin on just getting it wherever you find it. So take advantage of the partner program because it's very aggressive and it's very kind of partner centric to make sure that you as a partner who's doing the installation, especially for some of these not very difficult, but technically advanced kind of functionalities where people are willing to pay the fees for you to manage their networks. That's where we want you to take advantage of it because it's not kind of an off-the-shelf type product. So at this time, if you have any questions, you can always call us, and we have our dedicated sales rep that can talk to you if you are a partner. We have our East Coast reps and our West Coast reps that can help you if you have any questions, any of the demo kits and things like that, anything of interest that you may have saw on this. Again, Zyxel has a wide array of products, so any kind of application that you're looking to build out, give us a call. Let us know. See how we can help you build out that network because very likely, if it's a network, Zyxel has some sort of equipment that will fulfill it. If you're a service provider doing fiber to the home or fiber to the business, if you're doing wireless connectivity, or whether you're just doing network security for IP cameras or for encryption for financial offices or hospitality, anything like that, Zyxel has something that will come into play. So if you have any questions at this moment, I'm going to open it up to any Q&A questions that you may have. If you don't have any questions and you don't want to stick around, again, I just want to thank you for looking at Zyxel or being a partner of Zyxel. We look forward to being your networking ally, and we're here to help. And so we're here to find ways that we can make your business better. How can we improve? Things like that. Let me know. You can email me there at try@zyxel.com. Or again, talk to one of our sales reps, and we'll be happy to work with you on that. Well, since there are no questions right now, again, if you have a question later on, feel free to send me, drop me that email, and we will, see you again. Hopefully at another one. We do these every month. I'm also looking at doing a kind of a weekly forum so that you guys can actually have some feedback. We can engage and talk through different topics that we will present. So hopefully you can come back on that, and we will talk to you again soon.
Got off the wires. When I close my eyes, there's disconnected and tired. All I see